So we would like to tell you about the cost in total. There was a total cleanup. Initially, the announcement was that we'll spend only 9 billion. So we'll put what's in the frame there for you, and then you get to know. Because if you take a look at it, from 9 billion we moved in excess, and still because they are like GM Bank, because they are in courts, we don't have some remedies or some finality to their concerns. So now we have 25 billion spent so far, and it's counting. So we had 9 universal banks who were involved, and then we have various savings and loans companies, etc., who are also part of the chain. Now, in all, 420 within the tier, 9 universal banks, and then we had microfinance institutions. Well, most of them were, but that's the concern. Now, Prince Kofi Amoah, a former UT bank owner and CEO, had this to say before we come to Edudzi.
We're doing corporate responsibility and all those things. All these things are going to go away. And one thing that I don't understand is here's a government that says, I'm coming to create jobs. And you take actions to actually send people home before you create the jobs. I don't get it, because I think the sensible thing is to see how you can contain as much as possible part of what is already created and add to it.
But the unintended consequences would have been far more, disastrous than what we saw.
This is the most disastrous approach they adopted. Because we owe the government 800 million. The close down of UT Bank cost this country at least 2.2 billion. Now, we had an investor who says, I want to take over UT. And he actually put down money's token to show that they are interested in it. And the first offer was, we'll pay 400 of the 800, and Bank of Ghana write off the 400. Now, we're even negotiating with them to say that we'll pay the 800, but give us more time to pay the 800, and then we'll take over the bank. The interesting and funny thing is that Bank of Ghana, behind us, wrote to our investor to tell the investor 1 week to the closure that they didn't like their offer. That is not Bank of Ghana's investors. They have no relationship with them. And they did not even copy us. And the investor felt, oh, since he's been written to, we must know. So it's as if some plan was hatched to spring a surprise and to just...
Do you believe that some plan was hatched?
I don't have time to think about those things. I don't beg rights. What has happened has happened. You see, one thing is, this country is more important than UT or any other company. And the country has been given to people to govern. I only hope and pray that whatever action that they take is in the best interest of the people.
Edudzi, this is an experienced banker, started from the trenches and is saying this. Acknowledges that, well, the bank was in liabilities or default, but a better option could have been taken. Is that what President Mahama was communicating?
You see, when I listened to my brother Kofi, I was saddened. Look, he spent the initial stage of his conversation by creating the impression that my position differs from that of H.E. John Dramani Mahama. Kofi, yesterday in the evening, you asked for John Mahama's speech, and I forwarded it to you. Why didn't you read it?
You read it. What is wrong with
he
it?
said?
You never read the speech.
I read you what he said.
You never
read that
read.
part.
See, on the banking sector issues, this is exactly what H.E. John Dramani Mahama said. First of all, H.E. John Dramani Mahama never used the word illegal. He never used the word illegal. So I was never opposed to what GM said. He said the banks that had their license unjustly cancelled. Kofi, I gave you the speech, 4 hours, you couldn't read. Were you that engaged? Please, next time, don't do that.
Please, you cannot instruct him.
No, he's my very good brother.
Okay.
So when he reached out,
continue.
after the topics were given to us, he reached out. And I sent
Kofi, you
the speech to him.
Kofi, Edudzi, you have 4 minutes.
But you see, let me come back to the issue.
4 minutes.
First of all, Akufo-Addo in 2015, for the MPP primaries to elect him to become the flag bearer towards 20, gave each MPP delegate right? 40 cedis for their transport. Was it corrupting them?
No, you didn't hear what I said.
Please.
Let me correct what I said.
No, be calm. Be calm. Two, in this country, do you know who unveiled the plaque for the opening of Construction Bank? Do you know who? Dr. Bawumia, June 2017.
Where is the bank?
Exactly the question. He is talking about people who are not quote unquote prudent or created a problem. So at the time Bawumia went to the Octagon and unveiled Construction Bank, was he sleeping with Addison? Were they in coma? Do you even know what you are talking about? Listen, when the MPP came to power, they claimed that the total problem of our banking sector was 9 billion. Correct?
Correct.
9 billion Ghana cedis.
Correct.
So our position was that get the 9 billion, give it to the banks, and you keep them floating. Do you know that after this foolish initiative of destroying banks, they now told us that they've spent 25 billion.
And counting.
And counting.
Because GM Bank has not been.
So, in fact, your government should be charged for causing financial loss to the state.
Oh, how?
And the people who took that decision.
Edudzi, you're a lawyer. You cannot be speaking.
No. How do you spend 25 to solve a 9 billion problem? If you are prudent, if you are wise, if you are intelligent, if you have been brought home properly, you say a problem is worth 9 billion. By the time you were done solving the problem, it has cost you 25 billion.
Oh, is the problem solved?
Not. Even 25 billion, the problem has not been solved. You claim that you have created a new bank called CBG, correct? Today, the financial statement for CBG
2022
is out there. They've already posted over 2 billion losses.
Negative. Yeah.
Negative. But you see, the NPP is a political party founded on mischief and diabolics. Do you know what they did? In order to declare some banks insolvent, they deliberately, without understanding of banking, raised the minimum capital adequacy ratio. They raised
it was always on the table.
Please. They deliberately raised it in such a way as to force the banks. And so then they will use that excuse to destroy them.
That is a conspiracy theory.
Can you read that portion of John Mohammed's speech where he said on
Edudzi, your time is up.
No,
let me go to Professor John Gachi. Are you there?
I beg you, let me just conclude on something.
Yes,
okay.
Hold on.
Professor John Gachi is with.
Atuesian was charged for 27 million Ghana cedis. What has that got to do with a banking sector with a problem of 9 billion? You don't even understand the charges own AG preferred against.
Yes, but did you read the Bank of Ghana's own report based on the Bolders report?
I have the Bolders report.
Isaac, I don't go say we should discard it though. But for example, 81 million
because of the conflict of the people who prepared
and 81 million was sent somewhere in Zimbabwe and all that. Yes. So.
No, but that is not even the issue. That's not even the issue.
It's misapplication.
Yes. So if that is the case, like I gave the scenario, if a father is not treating the children well, you don't kill the children. That is foolishness.
Professor John Gachi, let me ask you a significant question. Considering that the banking sector cleanup has gone wrong and money is spent or wasted, within the realm of any possibility, could somebody be charged for causing financial loss to the state? Is this something that was not done right? The Bank of Ghana, for example, through the governor's own announcement, said there was some in-house cleaning exercise. So the governor, deputy governor, minister for finance or head of banking supervision, considering the fact that we're told 9 billion and now we have over 20 billion spent so far, could we in any way be holding people more responsible? Governor, deputy governor, head of banking supervision, finance minister, maybe at a later date somewhere, in terms of probing and asking these key questions of wastage of the country's money?
Well, there is the possibility of questioning people about their stewardship as to whether when an investigation is conducted, the investigation will settle on taking people on based on causing financial loss to the state will have to be done by those who are given the opportunity to conduct an investigation. But clearly, people who took those decisions, they are not right in all the decisions that they took, and those will be of concern. For example, in 2015, this act was put in place to survey the energy sector, which was actually endemic to the banking sector. So the idea was that when proceeds from that levy begins to come in, it will be used to settle the energy sector, and the energy sector likewise settles the banking sector. So that will bring in about liquidity and then strengthening the books of the banks. That was not the way that it was used when the new government came into power. So that is another area that is a causative factor to this whole problem. Then again, you see, you can deliberately cause capital adequacy problem for the banks.
How?
And how? Yes. If you decide not to pay what you owe the banks, for example, within 90 days, the Bank of Ghana rules is that you should provide or you should make provisions for those losses, those unpaid liabilities, and subsequently they crystallize into non-performing loans. A non-performing loan will continue to truncate the amount of the capital you have. So we can also infer that the decision not to pay some of the liabilities of the banks, that is through the payment of contractors and the rest, is a direct cause of the weak capital base of the banks. So the capital base of the bank did not deteriorate just because of the so-called mismanagement, but it was also part of the decision not to pay those liabilities that truncated and
Professor Jongachi, I understand what you're saying, and my conclusion is that somebody needs to be made answerable now or in the future. Should it be the governor, deputy governor, head of banking supervision, the finance minister, for if there have been losses, the actions taken in collapsing the banks?
I think this question is coming too early in the day.
You're running away.
I'm not running away, please. The approach that should be adopted should be comprehensive. We understand the causes, what the regulator has done, which ought not to be done, what other office holders have done, and then the experiences of bankers, like what Amoben just said, that there was a concrete effort to survey the bank, but that was not allowed to happen. All those things have to be investigated into, then we can profile a solution about the problem. So to start saying that the Bank of Ghana governor should be prosecuted based on causing financial loss, or the deputies to be prosecuted based on causing financial loss, is too early in the day to conceive.
Kofi, well, how do you respond to this?
Let me ask you a question. If you say that...
That's my question I can answer.
Yeah. If you say that...
Safe question.
Yeah. If you say that I have engaged in an act unjustly to cause financial loss to the state, what is that? I have engaged in an act that has caused financial loss to the state. What is that? Is that not an illegality?
Oh, Master. You are a gentleman.
Please, no. Please don't interfere. No.
I sent
Please
you.
Go ahead.
You are a gentleman. You.
Go ahead.
Your behavior.
Kofi,
Your behavior this morning.
Hold on. Hold on.
Kofi,
I sent you.
I'm a distinguished person, please.
I sent you the script.
Kofi, go ahead.
Read where John Mahama said illegally.
Okay.
Read it. Please, you're a gentleman. When you get
brother,
something wrong, you concede.
My brother.
Oh, yes. Then we go on.
I
We
read.
are all
Okay.
human.
Granted, the word illegal was not used.
Fantastic.
Okay,
Now let's
granted.
proceed.
Now, the point I am making to you is that you have sat here and interpreted what the gentleman said, or the former president said, that the actions he was referring to was things that caused financial losses to the state. So assuming that the word illegal was not used, your interpretation has impugned an illegality. Is that not so?
Please.
If you say something has been done unjustly to cause financial loss, is financial loss not an illegality?
Please.
So you sit here and you meander around issues. Oh, please.
Okay, very well.
Edudzi, please. You're a fine gentleman. Look at your suit. Let me talk. Now, the 40 CDs you were referring to, Edudzi, if you didn't listen to me properly, what I was referring to was that President Mahama gave each delegate 300,000 of them, each one 40 CDs. And then the delegates came out to say that the executives the money was given to have not paid their monies to them. So I was referring to corruption by your executives who refused to give the money to the delegates. So listen carefully. Clearly, you are not listening, Edudzi. You are not listening. It's not fine. Now, let's come back to
Should somebody be held responsible?
Yeah, let's come back to the issue. I come to your bank and I give you my money to hold my money for me. Millions of Ghanaians have given their monies to banks to hold it for them. Some of the banks were to the tune of 80% risk of loans.
We understand that.
You understand that?
Should somebody be held responsible?
Yes. So I've given my money to you. Bank people are supposed to go to the bank and take their money. Some of the banks, when people went to the bank to take their money, they didn't have money to pay them. Some of the banks were exposed to the tune, Premium Bank was exposed to the tune of $100 million. You know, Ibrahim Mahama is a fine gentleman. And I have so much respect for him because of what he's doing for this economy. But I am forced to cite what happened when UT Bank cited his company for some challenges. And if you read the story, it says that if the money is not paid, it is going to collapse the bank.
But that's a client.
Exactly. No, that was the time where UT Bank was going through challenges, and the percentage alone from that loan constituted a substantial amount to their risk. But all put aside.
What is that? Why is that an issue?
All of that are issue because people give their monies to banks. Banks lend the money to clients to do businesses so they get money. So if clients are not paying, if there are high risk of loans, what it means is that people's money that have been lodged at the bank cannot be honored. Okay. So we sit here and talk about rich friends. Edudzi is worried about his rich friends, Adongo and the co. But he's not worried about the Ghanaian whose money was lodged at the bank. The 25 billion that you are referring to, where did the 25 billion go? When we talk about the 25 billion, let's educate Ghanaians that the 25 billion went to the depositors. Akufo-Addo didn't chop the 25 billion.
Nobody.
So let's create that. We create the impression that it was 9 billion and a balloon to 25 billion.
But nobody has created the impression.
No, there was an impression created.
By who?
Roland. The impression is that when you cited the values in a vacuum, what were you expecting the people to understand?
We cite values based on the fact that this is the amount that has been spent.
Spent on what?
In rescuing depositors' funds.
Yes, on what?
Trying to look at their assets and liabilities.
Exactly, but you didn't say that earlier. That the 25 billion, when he also referred it, he didn't say it. Okay. That the 25 billion was not money that went to Akufo-Addo's pocket. They were monies that were given to depositors because it was their money. It was their money. Somebody goes to put his money at the bank, and the government says, because of liabilities, we are giving back your money. And the impression is being created as though the money went into thin air. It didn't. It was given back to depositors. It was their legitimate money. Now, the issue of capital requirements, the issue of Edudzi was talking about capital adequacy ratio. Edudzi, what are you talking about?
I first talk about minimum capital and adequacy ratio.
Minimum capital referring to what?
120 million. 120 million. To
The government,
400 million.
the government
That's
increased. The government
created a
increased the
problem for them.
capital, minimum capital, after the cleanup.
It's not the government, it's the Bank of Ghana.
Yeah, fine. I mean, we are
It's
attributing
the
everything.
government. It's the government.
But is it not the case that the minimum requirement was increased after the cleanup? So why create the impression that it was raised before the cleanup? Unless I didn't understand.
It was raised within the period, by the time it was raised, those that could not meet that threshold. And then the other
my point is
decisions
there
like
was
diverting
the
depositors'
banks.
funds, etc.
No, Roland, let's educate people properly. When the banks were set up, for example, Premium Bank was set up October 5th, 2016. Heritage 2016. What was the capital adequacy ratio? I mean, sorry, the minimum capital. 120. When did the minimum capital increase?
But the Bank of Ghana had already announced that by close of the year,
By
if
close
you
of
don't
what
meet
year?
December, if
Of
you
what
don't
year?
of 26, if you
And
don't
even
meet,
give them moratorium and
if you don't meet the capitalization, these were the decision, and so they gave the banks time to find ways of restructuring their financials or
I mean,
finances,
you have established
as
my
well
point.
as their
You have
shareholder
established my
holdings.
point I'm making to you is
And
when
it's for
they-
that reason, that's why we had Prince Kofi Amwa been saying they were in talks with a consortium in Germany.
Yeah.
And
Are you
then
saying
also
UT
some
couldn't
local
meet
banks.
120 million cedis?
It's not 120. They were supposed to meet, it was a 400 million.
400.
Yes.
Are you saying
in fact, they
from,
had 2 years to
from
do the
120,
raise.
from 120, then you move to
Could be
400.
2 years.
Now the conversation is that if you do an ultimate announcement and say that you have to go down under into administration because you're not able to meet, that means that
No. The capital requirement.
no, I understand that.
Okay,
part.
was
We've dealt
120
with
million.
that. Yes.
And then
120.
there was an announcement to increase that 120
400.
million to 400 million. It was after the banks were set up. So an additional requirement was added. Okay. Now, why couldn't a bank like UT meet, assuming it was 400 million? At that time, that would have been about $90 million or $95 million, looking at the exchange rate. Why could a bank, a robust bank like UT, not meet a requirement of $90 million?
I think Kofi Amwa says they were not robust, but they had structural issues which could have been mended.
Structural issues to what level?
Okay.
No, structural issues
Listen
to
for
what
me.
level? But that's the point I am making. If a bank, for example, has a risk, of 80, in some instances, 90% by financial practices, underwriting practices, that is unacceptable. That is completely unacceptable for a bank to be at a risk of 90% of its loans. Why are we checking the true errors that occurred? And I've also told you already that some of these banks were saved before. President Mahama gave them money before.
The Bank of Ghana.
Yes.
injected.
So, yeah, Bank of Ghana, President Mahama, whatever. So my point is, you had issues. You were giving money to solve that issue. The money you were giving to solve the issue, you couldn't solve the issue. And you are saying that we should give you another money to solve the same issue that you were giving money for.
I see.
What are we talking about? Why are we not telling Ghanaians that the banks, the big men that we are fighting for, were giving monies, their taxpayers' money, and they squandered that taxpayer money? And we are sitting here creating the impression that 25 billion was money that was thrown into thin air.
Nobody said that.
That's the impression.
Yes. In fact, it was.
Yes. Okay. In fact, it was not even in thin air. It
And
was
that
into the
money
sea.
will be investigated one day. That
Roland,
25 billion.
I have shared a document with you, which is
The document says it's a Japadia.
a Japadia.
What
and
document
it
is
is a restricted document. And
Please
if you
don't indulge that document.
No, let him read.
Don't indulge
Let
that
him
document.
read. After that, you can impugn it.
You are going to read
the
a document that's not
Please.
been verified on
Read
this
it.
big platform.
Read it, please.
I should share
Where's the
document
document
with
coming
you.
from? I haven't cited it before.
I have
Roland.
cited it, so I've
Roland.
corroborated
Yes,
it.
sir.
So
If you go through that document,
The Japadia document.
they are Japadia, they
Because you're just
restricted
sharing it with
it gives you the true intention.
and then
Roland, I see.
can I make
object.
my take?
So after that, you can rebut.
Rebut what?
The-
Where
the-
is the what's the source of that document?
The things you have read.
Roland, can I make
I've
my
sourced
point?
every single
Don't
thing.
you control?
I've sourced every single thing.
Or I should
No,
get-
I will not accept it.
I should
Let
go
him
into-
provide the source of that document.
What's the
Who
source
wrote
of
the
that
It is
book?
me. But listen,
It is you.
yes, but listen.
Okay. Then
It is me,
am,
but listen.
I am telling anybody.
It is me, but listen.
If you mention
Please.
anybody's name, that person
please.
should sue you.
Please, what you are about to
What are you saying?
read, we
now you are issuing a
yes,
disclaimer.
we disassociate ourselves from it.
Now you are issuing a
Because I haven't cited this document
Please go
before.
ahead. Read
Please,
it.
I don't have the time. I want to go to
listen
Professor
him
John
more.
Gachi,
This
please.
is your lawyer. He said
we go.
you didn't pay him.
Please,
Don't listen.
I
to
give
him.
it
have the
only
floor.
3 minutes, please.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm interested
We
in the
disassociate
document.
ourselves from.
I'm reading the introduction.
Okay.
And the chapter 1
But where
says economic and financial sector control.
Listen.
And I will not read the entire paragraph 1, but it should give you a sense. The economic and financial systems contribute the nerves of every country. Indeed, political power and economic control are inextricably linked to such a way that any group that controls economic might of a nation essentially controls its political power. At the same time, political power is virtually a condition precedent to economic and financial power in any country and Africa as a whole. Then you go to the banking sector controls that they established. This document,
They're all in the document.
everything is there, and I deliberately shared it with you. Everything that went under the banking sector collapsed.
It's in this document.
It's in this document.
We disassociate ourselves. Who is the author of this document?
Well planned, and well executed.
He said he wrote the document.
We disassociate ourselves from the document.
Even persons like how they will get John Boadu out of office is contained in this document. Even how Sami Owoku has become too powerful and they need to cut his wings, and they are trying, is contained in this document.
This document you have shared with
This
me.
document I've shared. Even Kojo
We
Opon
disassociate
Nkrumah.
ourselves.
I have not asked you to associate yourself. Can I make
no,
you
no,
the
what
point?
you are doing is not
Kofi,
right. What you are
Kofi,
doing is not right.
Kofi,
Ghana.
when
What
you
are
were
doing?
speaking, I was distinguished by my silence.
Bernard, please.
By my silence.
I'll give you 2 minutes.
You cannot credit him with
Edudzi,
distinguished.
You are a lawyer.
And then you are
And
sitting
you are
here.
sitting here allowing this to
Roland,
happen.
what are you doing to me?
What has happened?
Okay, go
I
ahead.
should not speak.
Go
So,
ahead.
2 minutes.
so
So I've
see.
not heard your name.
Please, let's Bernard me 2 minutes.
So
he has
the point I'm
120
establishing is that no one should wake up and think that President Akufo-Addo Ken Ofori-Atta just decided to do the things they are doing out of ignorance. This is something that they meditated, they planned,
With your beret.
they wrote, and unfortunately, this document is leaked. And I urge you to read this document.
I should go through.
Just read this
We
document after this
disassociate
show.
ourselves from this document.
I am not asking you to associate yourself. Why are you
But you
disassociating
are
yourself?
using their platform.
You understand? All that I'm saying is that when you read that document and you will still as calm as you are today, I would doubt your
You
Ghanaians.
see, Roland, I'm sad today.
But you see,
But nobody is here. to
Professor
make
John
you
Gachi,
happy.
no, please, nobody can help me. Why is that? When you come, you want to, don't help me, please.
Why do you want to make? I should make you happy.
Okay.
You see,
All right.
before
My
Prof.
duty is to
Agachi
make you
comes
happy.
in.
How on earth?
You see,
All right, Edudzi,
you see,
Edudzi,
before Prof.
let-
Agachi comes in, look.
Edudzi, let me ask you, let me ask you.
Beige Bank, for instance. Yes.
Let me
Beige
ask you.
Bank.
Let me ask you this question.
Big
No,
Bang,
no, no.
for
There are
It
key,
was
there are
this
key
government-
issues. There are key issues.
it
Let
was
me
this
ask you the
government-
question, then you add it to
Okay,
it.
go ahead.
Can
In
we
all
have
this,
another topic?
in all this, that topic,
On
we've
the
collapsed
NDC.
it.
No. Why do you collapse the topic on NDC?
Editorial discretion, we've collapsed because we don't have time to discuss it. We'll close at 8:30, please. Now, the reality is that if you look at the decisions that were taken by the Bank of Ghana and then the reasons, they're supposed to have been supervisory roles that were undertaken, and then the fiduciary responsibility of the shareholders and directors to their customers,
Yes.
towards the Bank of Ghana. You know some of those things. I mean, certainly, if we put all that in the scheme of things, both sides couldn't have been.
If you listen to me, and before I go, just
should the BOG not be held responsible?
Just for the sake of record, for the sake of the record,
for poor banking
let me just read something. Let me just read something quickly.
Should the BOG not be held responsible?
We will do that. We will do that. But let me read it.
For poor banking supervision.
We will give the opportunity for experienced banking hands who were laid off to secure their careers once more and move from the menial jobs they were forced into. As far as practicable, banking licenses that were unjustly cancelled by this government will be restored, just for the record. But to the issues you've raised, if it's about holding BOG officials accountable, Addison and his 2 deputies should not be holding office today. Do you know why?
No.
When they came, they met the Bank of Ghana Act as amended. The Act specifically provides that under no circumstance should the Bank of Ghana advance money beyond 5% of the previous year's, total tax revenue. Consistently, Addison and the 2 deputy governors and the board have consistently been violating that law with recklessness. They are still holding office. And these were the people who were holding others accountable. 2, by the time Ken Ofori-Atta even took the whole country up, together with Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, you recall, our debt to GDP ratio was what? 56%. Today, they have taken it to 103%. And these are the people talking about prudence. Do you even have the benefit of understanding what prudence means? The long and short, regrettably this morning, my friend decided to introduce Mr. Ibrahim Mahama into the conversation. Please calm down. Calm down. I just want to set the records.
Are you retracting? Or?
No, I'm not.
No, it's not an issue.
I read is an issue.
Today, Dangote had built one of the biggest oil refineries in the world. He didn't do it with his pocket money. He will go to banks, syndicate, and build, and then use the proceeds, escrow it, and repay. Nothing precludes a businessman in this country in going to any financial institution. At least today, we know. Hold on. Today we know there's a cement factory called Jata Cement. It can be escrowed, the receivables, and used to offset. So it was a prudent engagement. Maybe
this is the head of banking supervision.
Sure.
Should we be holding people like this
Maybe the
responsible?
reason why Akufo-Addo collapsed UT Bank is possibly the advance to
Answer my
Ibrahim
question.
Mahama.
Oh, no, has nothing to do with it.
And that has been the mindset of Ken Ofori-Atta to
Speak to my questions. Should we be holding the governor, deputy governor, head of banking supervision, and some other officials at the Bank of Ghana responsible for this?
What I am aware is that the Bank of Ghana Act today says that the governor, the board, the 2 deputies should not give advances to the Akufo-Addo administration beyond 5%. Consistently, they have violated that law. Okay. So if you are asking me what is the legal consequence for that violation,
Roland,
that's another matter altogether. But you see, the bottom line is that as we speak today, hold on, calm down. You'll get the time. As we speak today, do you know that even depositors of major, like Indum's, Gold Coast Securities and others, they have not been paid after 25 billion was expended. What did you use the money for?
Roland, can I
and let me assure the people of this country that 1 cedi of that 25 billion Ghana cedis will be investigated.
Oh, please.
And let anybody, because I strongly believe that they use the banking sector cleanup for their own dubious things. And that is how come today we have had to spend 25 billion on that particular.
Kofi, I give you a minute. Sorry, time is up. Should we be holding the governor of the Bank of Ghana, deputy governors, the other officials, head of banking supervision, more responsible for it?
See, anybody, any technical person who supervised, and I'm using my words advisedly because we have to look at the timeline. This man you've put here, I don't know what timeline he was in charge of that position. But anybody who supervised over the ills that we are talking about, yes, must be held accountable. So we need to go back in time and identify the people who were responsible. To the last person. Now, my last comment. I never disparaged Ibrahim Mahama. I only cited an example that involved him, which UT Bank came out publicly to talk about. I said he's a man I respect so much. So let's.
You didn't
let's
say that. You're not saying that.
No, I said that.
Okay.
No,
I said that.
I give it
set
to
the
you. I give
record
it to you.
straight. So
No, before I said
Please edit it.
I admire him with sincerity. That's what I said. I said that.
But still blame him for.
No, I didn't blame you. You didn't listen to me well. I was citing how UT Bank came out publicly to say that he had about 300 million
that was the
cedis.
reason why they
That's
collapsed
why
the
I was referring. And lastly, Section 30, Clause 6 of the Bank of Ghana Act, amended, talks about emergency instances where Bank of Ghana can advance and raise or increase the limit of advances to the government. When they read those laws, they deliberately ignore Clause 6, which talks about emergency, where it says Bank of Ghana, Ministry of Finance, Controller can meet and set new limits. So don't come and sit here and talk about 5%.
Communicates for the
What are you
government
talking
of
about?
Nana Addo Dankwa.
I said
don't
Section
even know
30
what
of
you are
the Bank of the
talking
Ghana
about.
Act. I just said it.
Consistently, they've been
Section
breaching and
30
violating the
of
law.
Bank of Ghana Act, Clause 6.
All right.
I read it to you. What are you talking about?
Bernard,
Oh, not sure.
the Bank of Ghana governor, deputy governors, head of banking supervision. How responsible should they be accountable for this?
Well, if you read the Ajapadia document, it is clearly stated how they have been able to take control of the mother, which is the Bank of Ghana.
The Japadia document.
Yes.
The document you
look
sent.
at
No, I'm just
the
telling
composition
you,
of the board.
they have
Edudzi,
taken
relax.
control
Deliberately done.
of the mother, which is the Bank of Ghana, and that the two deputies are from their stock. And then the second deputy, in particular, will meet the gender and female expectations, so there will not be issues. They should then go further to control other banks, including even Stanbic Bank, in ensuring that the successor to Andani is of their own. They have taken notice of EcoBank, they have taken notice of ABSA, and they have taken notice of the fact that Ghana Commercial Bank is already a state-controlled bank, and therefore they should muscle all these things in order to have control of the financial sector, which will give them perpetual political power. When you have this document that has spelled out how President Akufo-Addo and his team plan how to use the resources of this nation for their personal good, you cannot come and sit here and say that you are disassociating yourself from this document.
What is the name of the document?
Ajapadia.
Entitlement. So they see
Ajapadia.
the resources of this country as
so
they are exclusive.
this, just after I have mentioned it,
It's
if
terrible.
you see the
You should
number
read
of
the
people that
document.
have requested, and because of this, I'm going to put it publicly on my social media handle, so that anybody who wants to access that document
In fact,
can
it's a
read.
leaked document.
Can
For
read
the
it.
purpose of the record.
It is it's
a-
unfortunate.
Professor Jongachi, let me go to Professor before I go for a
This
break.
document
Kofi.
leaked about 5 years ago.
I have
And
been
you are
talking
aware
about
of
it.
it.
So you know about the
Yes,
document.
it's a confidential document prepared by the NPP on how to appropriate
Professor Jongachi,
what belongs to this
NDC
country.
prepared
Hello.
documents. That's
I'm going to.
Showed
Oh, how?
showed the Bank of Ghana governor, the deputy governors of the Bank of Ghana, head of banking supervision, other officials be held responsible for the crisis the banking sector of Ghana is in, was in and is in.
Well, I think those people are quite aware that if there should be an investigation into the banking sector, cleanup and reforms, they are definitely going to be under investigation. And we can't just set aside only the Bank of Ghana. We have people in the Ministry of Finance, people within the government that will have to come under a comprehensive investigation to identify the role they play in some of the decisions which are not palatable, some of the decisions which are hurtful, and some of the decisions which are considered to be not in place. So those people, they are aware that definitely if there is an investigation into the banking sector cleanup, they will be part of the investigation, and others will have to be part of the investigation.
When should we begin this investigation?
Well, the investigation cannot be undertaken under this government because the government believes that what they have done is right. So there is no need for investigation. So President Mahama has indicated that he will carry a process, and the outcome of the process is to release the licenses to some of the banks which were considered not to be treated well. So I think it will be under an NDC government when President Mahama wins power. That is when it will be feasible for an investigation into the banking sector cleanup.
Well, thank you very much. Professor John Gachi, you are the Dean, University of Cape Coast Business School. Kofi Tonto communicates for...
Let me read this act to you, Roland, very quickly. Section 30 of the Bank of Ghana Act, amended, Clause 6. Let me read it to you. In the event of any emergency, the governor, the minister, and the controller and account general shall meet to decide the limits of borrowing.
What has that got to do with
It has. You are talking about 5%.
It has nothing to do with
and
it.
I'm telling you that
It has
the
nothing,
law
please.
grants them
No.
the right
You are
to
misreading.
set a new
And your
limit.
interpretation of the law is
To
so
set
terrible.
a new limit.
Limit of what?
Clause 6
Limit of what?
the Section 30
You
of
have
the Bank of
violated
Ghana
the
Act.
and you are here
Nobody
giving
has
a post
violated
facto-
any
a
act.
post facto
Nobody
justification.
has violated
The time
any
of
act. Don't
accountability
peddle
is coming.
such falsehood on TV. Nobody has violated
So you mean,
any act. I've read the act to you.
did not go beyond the 5%?
I have said to you that
No, is
they
that your
can
case?
go beyond the 5%
what you
in
are
the
talking
event
about.
of emergency, and the law grants
Roland.
them the right.
Roland.
I've read the act to you.
Roland,
Even the Bank of Ghana governor is worried.
I see new excitement in town that IMF cash hits Bank of Ghana this week.
Yeah, but let's stay on the issue and then...
No, but do you know that even last year alone,
Yeah, point,
Bank
yeah,
of
point.
Ghana
Yeah,
gave
point.
over 3 billion to the Akufo-Addo administration.
What?
It did not resolve the challenges with the economy.
They did what?
I said last year, Bank of Ghana advanced to your government over $3.5 billion dollars.
What are you talking about,
Yes.
Edudzi?
Yeah, I've sent you the Bloomberg story. I've sent you the Bloomberg story.
I've read that.
Can I-
I've sent you the
Can
Bloomberg
I make
story.
my point?
Okay, let me
Or
talk
I'm
about
not
it.
allowed to
What
speak.
are you talking
Please, let's have
about?
some sanity here. Let's have
I
some sanity.
cannot talk.
Yeah, please.
I'm saying that after Ken Ofori-Atta ran his mouth like diarrhea over
30 minutes.
over as to whether 30 minutes, thank you. Over whether we'll
Giving him
go
30 minutes.
whether we'll
No,
go
I'm
to
not giving
IMF
30 minutes.
or not to go to IMF. And the fact that after misfiring and denting the image of the institution IMF, realized that he was wrong in his pronouncement, rushed to the IMF. We are told that we have been able to beg the Paris Club, and in particular, China. They have acceded to whatever terms, and we are going to the IMF. We are also told further that hopefully this week, Ghana may get 600 million of the 3 billion that is planned. Just as we are a debt-ridden country, and we were hoping that our government will learn that borrowing is a challenge.
Already
The Minister for State at the Ministry of Finance, on page 9 of the daily guide,
Ghana
says
to
that
return
Ghana
to
to return to the
international
international financial market.
You are going back to
We are going to borrow and borrow more. And that the IMF would provide an opportunity for credit rating agencies to now give favorable ratings to Ghana so that Ghana can go and borrow. If you are looking...
And more importantly, Ken Ofori-Atta will be making more money.
If we are not a people that are angry at the debasement of our economy by Ken Ofori-Atta and in fact by extension President Akufo-Addo, we are not angry enough at the levels to which they are taking us for granted. I cannot be an excited Ghanaian looking at what we are going through, the turmoil that businesses are going through. Contractors are not paid. Some of them have lost their jobs.
16 billion owed to contractors.
You understand? So in the face of all this, the best we can do, as we are trying to get away from the level of recklessness that Ken Ofori-Atta has left us to, the same finance ministry is telling us that with this new money, we are going to go to the international financial market.
Just so that nobody misquote you, let me quote him. We will go back to the market because we will leverage on the IMF deal to balance our financing needs. Unquote.
Read this section.
Please.
You read everything.
No,
you can read it. It's a short story.
Read what I
No,
want
you
to
can
read.
take it. You can read the entire story.
You read.
It is page 9 of the daily
See,
guide.
you see-
And I feel very worried.
Very worried.
Very, very worried and terrified by the levels
You see, let me
of
read-
unreasonableness
let me read
on the
what-
handlers of
We
our
were
economy.
thinking that by now you'll be talking about how to contain your borrowings, the innovative ways to ensure that we do not, the debt sustainability conversation. Because as we speak, can you imagine
Can
that
we read-
pensioners are still picketing? Persons who have saved their money so they can enjoy their retirement. This government has eaten so much that they are taking pensioners' money as well. Kofi, are you guys not
Can I
having
read
anything in
You have kept long in reading it.
Are you not?
I need to see-
It's
Okay.
so painful. And you see my.
But they said
parents-
they will be paid a coupon
Look,
rate
I
now.
watched a very elderly woman say that, look, I have to control my lifestyle in order to save enough to pay my medication. I have two persons who I control. They are not in very good health. I pay and buy their medication and everything. And so I expect money from these savings. Today, Akufo-Addo is not in position to pay 19 of their coupons and 3 of the principals. And you are still talking about going to the market to go and do further borrowing. Kofi, are you not worried?
Can I talk? Am I
Look,
allowed?
Akufo-Addo is 79. Oh. He is going. You and I would have to break our back to service this unbridled borrowing that is benefiting his family. Are you not worried, Kofi?
Can I talk?
This morning, I'm so much
No,
in
I'll
pain.
let you.
In fact, I thought that we'll have a very... But for the minister to already give us an indication that they only need this IMF money so that they can leverage on it.
That
to
IMF, it's
borrow
not that they
more.
only need money. Now that the IMFs have come, they are going to borrow more.
Oh!
Okay.
Read it. You can read the entire story.
No, Kofi, read the code. Don't read the...
No, he can read the entire story.
Okay.
we
Please
don't
go
have
ahead.
time.
Go ahead.
Now, when you read what the minister was talking about, the minister
Brother,
was,
we can close.
the minister
No,
was
we can close. Only after he has read what he has to read.
the
Please,
minister
go
was
ahead.
referring to sustainable levels. You know, the agreement. No, let me. Oh,
Roland, Yapon.
No. Please let him heckling the gentleman. No. No, stop heckling. Kofi Toto is a gentleman.
Oh,
you see,
Kofi,
I'm
please,
a
mate,
distinguished. I like how you call me distinguished. So I'm behaving as such.
Kofi, I'm waiting for you, please. Read
I've never seen Kofi
read it
in a
and make a
bubble state
rebuttal.
like this.
The
Roland.
minister said it depends on how quickly we get to sustainable levels.
When?
And he said that we are hoping to attain sustainable levels by 2028. He says it all here.
go.
He says it all here.
Read.
He says it all here.
No, let me give it to
Please
you. I
stop,
don't
stop,
read it.
stop.
But he's not reading
The
the
guy is
document.
paraphrasing.
Stop
the-
heckling
what
him.
the-
I don't like what you're doing.
I'm reading verbatim. Quote, it depends on how quickly we get to sustainable levels. We are hoping at attaining sustainable levels by 2028. If that is achieved, then it is possible. He was referring to reaching sustainable levels.
The 55%
Read.
debt
Yes,
to GDP.
before you
Read.
go to the market, read it.
Read.
So why do you create the impression
I've
that...
read all the story,
Yes,
that's what I'm
why
asking.
do you
No,
create
no,
the
which
impression
one?
that he was referring to
Which
going
one?
to the market now? He was saying that...
Now.
Please,
Read the story.
He explains when. Did I not just read when he said...
No. Read the story.
I just
you
read
can't
it
go
to
and
you.
cut and paste.
Please, no.
I
it's
just
there.
read it
Please
to you.
Continue.
That we will access the market after we have reached
Roland,
sustainable
let your camera
levels
zoom
by
this.
2028. Now let me talk about this.
No,
Let me talk
let
about
your
it.
camera zoom this.
Let me talk-
Government owes what?
contracted.
Oh, please, why you? No. The two of you, Bernard and Edudzi, please.
You are not worried.
No.
You are not worried that contractors
all of us are.
Roland,
I'm also
please,
worried.
You are becoming an accomplice.
No.
You are becoming an accomplice.
No problem. Please go ahead. Let him finish, please. Let him finish.
This finder-
Kofi.
This is fine. You know the owner.
Kofi, make your point.
That's the minister
Ibrahim Awad.
Okay.
For tourism.
Okay, can I finish? Okay, so let's look at this story. How much does it say here?
16 billion.
Okay,
cedis.
so
That's how much we owe contractors.
Yes, Roland, let's do a calculation. You know, I see Edun Ketia went.
Are you coming to justify this?
No, I'm not justifying anything.
People want their money
Edudzi,
paid. People want their money paid. People are losing jobs. The construction industry is on a standstill. And you want to provide justification.
I'm not justifying
with
anything.
No, contractors are watching you. Their BP is going up this morning. Listening to you. They want assurance as a key government spokesperson this morning. And you want to justify the debt? Bro, I beg you, disembark. Because where you are going is a complete
But I'm not justifying anything.
Please don't do it. People's
But
BP
do you know what
is
I'm going to
up.
say?
Their BP
please
is
go ahead.
going
So,
up.
not that they are
Edudzi says I'm an accomplice to you. At some point, they say I'm an accomplice to him. So please.
You see,
Roland,
what I was
stop
going to
indulging,
say
no.
was that indeed, the government owes our brothers and
How are they going
sisters
to be
in the
paid?
construction industry, and that the government must do everything possible to pay up to them. And I believe the minister and everyone will do whatever necessary.
Your
to
tone
pay
has
up.
gone down.
Yes,
Crazy.
because we are talking about you are diabolic, pal.
Oh, now he's no more the person who say you are distinguished.
The man has given you
please.
time. I knew you won't get anything.
Edudzi,
That's why
please.
I advise you. You are my brother.
Now, the only thing that I wanted to point out,
Contractors. Oh.
you know, the only thing that I wanted to point out, you know, when I see Edun Ketia gave a speech, he said that the government has gotten a resource envelope of 822 billion. And out of the 822 billion, 1.6% has been allocated to roads since the government came into power. All government roads come to 1.6% of 822 billion. When you do the math, 1.6% of 822 billion is 13.5 billion cedis. What does that mean? Edun Ketia is telling you that the government has spent only 13.5 billion on roads.
How does that solve the
No, but
debt?
the story,
Please let him talk.
him. He's talking about my national chairman, please, for the record.
No,
He's
but
a liar.
let him learn.
I'm
Let
only
him
telling you
learn.
he's a liar.
No, the
Let him
story
learn.
says road and
Edudzi.
building.
Edudzi.
The mosquito talk about allocation to road.
Okay.
There's an added
if you won't let me talk,
building.
let's
Please.
Okay. So please conclude.
So my point is that Edun Ketia lied. You know,
He never did.
But nevertheless, what is most important is making sure that we pay up.
Because the contractors are 16
Yes,
billion.
They are watching us.
I agree with you. There's absolutely no excuse for it. We have a duty as a government to pay up if we owe.
When are you paying them?
And
Lip service.
we have to
When are
pay
you
up
paying
to
them?
the people. And I believe
Lip
this
service.
government is going to do the right
When are
thing
you paying?
by paying up to
This
them.
morning I'm
now
in
we are
pain.
going to, you see, once the IMF comes in, you get space. You get fiscal space.
To go to
Once
the
we get
international
fiscal
capital
space,
market.
you know, other
To go and
opportunities
borrow
come in. No. We are not going to go and borrow more.
So
other opportunities will come in.
2028.
So God willing, we are going to pay up to them. You know, they should be
Is
patient.
God's willing and plan.
Thank you
Kofi
very much.
Tonto,
Yeah.
thank you very much. Kofi Tonto communicates for the government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And Bernard Mona, former chair
That's a
for
good time for you to
the PNC, and then Edudzi Tamaklo,
I'm sorry, but
who says
I couldn't
that
have
I'm
helped.
an accomplice to Kofi Tonto. Sometimes they say
I'm sorry, but I
I'm his
can't help
accomplice, so I don't know.
I-
Please
I-
make sure you
I
get
thought- I
interactive.
thought
We have
I
a
could
conversation also with Sam George. He's the retained
Congratulations.
parliamentary candidate. Of course, he's the
support
incumbent for the Ningo Pram Pram constituency. We'll have some
I
nice
supported Sam
interactions. So we're
George,
taking a break.